Mr. Speaker, thank you. Danse nitsanek netonamak nehiao hodnashoni squeo nehiao otsi amiskuchi waskegan. I'm a Cree Mohawk woman standing here in Treaty 6, and I honor the ancestors whose footsteps we walk in. I honor those children who are yet to come, for they are always watching how we carry ourselves in this place. As I respond to the speech from the throne, I think about the delivery of what I heard, and I thought about the families of Musqueam, Saddle Lake, the elders in Louis Bowl, Ermineskin, Sampson, and Montana. I thought of the workers in Rocky Mountain House, the ranchers in Sundre, the parents in Rimbey, and every single Albertan who's doing their very best to get through each day while this government tells them everything is fine. The speech from the throne outlines a vision for our province. It was one that was bold in rhetoric, but deeply misaligned with the lives and the realities of Albertans. While this government speaks of prosperity and strength, the speech completely failed to address the urgent and growing concerns of Albertans. As I have traveled and listened to many Albertans, I have heard from countless teachers, healthcare workers, parents, seniors, community leaders, Indigenous leaders, small towns, hamlets, and young people who are struggling under the weight of policies that prioritize ideology over people. And the speech that the Governor General delivered to this House simply does not reflect the compassion, the collaboration, and the community-driven leadership that Albertans deserve and need. You know, Mr. Speaker, I find it very interesting that the speech from the throne made reference to treaty territory. But this government did not speak the truth about what is happening far too often in too many of our families on our own territories. Right now, over 67% of children in government care are First Nations and Métis children. That's more than there ever was at the height of the Indian residential schools. What this means is that more babies, more children, more teenagers, more young adults are not with their mom, they're not with their dad, they are not having breakfast with their family, they are not going to beds, being tucked in by moms and dads, they are not going to funerals, they are not going to feasts, they are not visiting their mushums, their cookums, or the Ina Ana days. They are in fact taken away from their lives, from their families, and this is felt every single day in Musqueam, Saddle Lake, Onion Lake, Drift Pile, Sucker Creek, Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation, Enoch, and every single one of our communities feels this far more than you can imagine. The pain of not having our children and our families is crippling. I have sat with mothers who bring out tiny pairs of shoes and baby blankets that are simply no longer needed and simply will not be wrapped around their babies. I have sat with mothers while workers sit outside of the room waiting for that baby to be delivered, to take it to its new foster home that is not Indigenous and that is not their family. I have held fathers who wept, who told me they no longer believe this government even sees them as humans. If this government claims to honor treaty, then honor treaty obligations to support our families, support the kinship care, fund community-led child welfare, and address the root causes that lead to apprehension. The speech spoke proudly of reform and improvement. But in Rocky Mountain House, the hospital has had rotations of physicians and shortages after shortages. In Rimbey, families have been waiting for hours, sometimes overnight, just to be seen. In Sundre, short staffing has become the norm. Nurses are exhausted, paramedics are tired, and across central Alberta, people are being advised to drive to Edmonton or to Red Deer. That is not emergency care if you have to drive an hour. This is not modernization. This is absolutely the collapse. And for many of our small communities, for many of our small nations like Musqueam, Saddle Lake, Keehuan, Frog Lake, where chronic illness and trauma already weigh heavy, the absence of primary care is not an inconvenience. It is life-threatening. Right now, almost 1 million Albertans do not have a family doctor. Let us say that plainly. A quarter of the province can simply not access a doctor when they are sick. Every day we have heard of a drug toxic poisoning in our province. In many of our communities, in our cities, we are burying young people far too often. Families supporting loved ones without adequate detox and aftercare. In Red Deer and Edmonton, emergency rooms are overwhelmed with overdose. Firefighters and paramedics are always trying to revive people who've overdosed. The grief is constant. Yet, we have yet to see safe supply to prevent deaths, housing first supports, Indigenous-led healing programs grounded in ceremony, the continuity of care beyond short-term treatment beds. Rather, they propose forced confinement, a policy that echoes and echoes residential school incarceration. Giamaga, we know where that road leads. We have lived it. Healing cannot be forced. Healing requires relationships, it requires culture, land, safety, and above all, dignity. While the speech claimed economic growth and diversification, families in Rocky Mountain House are struggling with skyrocketing insurance bills. Seniors in Rimbey are choosing between heating or groceries. Single parents in Musqueam are rationing their food to make it to the end of the month. Food banks in Red Deer, Edmonton, and Calgary are seeing record highs in demand. You absolutely cannot talk about prosperity while people are standing in line for food. The leader of the official opposition proposed something simple and unifying in his amendment to the speech from the throne. He proposed that Alberta affirms we are stronger as part of Canada and denounces separatism as extreme, divisive, and economically destructive. And First Nations and Métis continually remind this government in this very House the risks and dangers of separatist talk. We hear repeatedly a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, but this rhetoric fuels something darker. I travel to communities across Treaty 6, 7, and 8, and I hear from folks who are exhausted by division, by fear, and by the manufactured anger that this government feeds in order to maintain power. Albertans have repeatedly said they do not want to fight our neighbours. Albertans want health care. They want their kids to feel safe. Albertans want to be able to afford to live. This government is lighting matches and pouring gases while pretending to protect the House. The speech from the throne needed to do better. It needed to speak about investments in schools. This government claimed to invest billions in school infrastructure and hire thousands of educators cannot be taken lightly or at face value when it comes alongside a deeply undemocratic decision to invoke the notwithstanding clause, to end a strike and impose a contract on teachers. This action stripped educators of their constitutional right to strike. It undermines collective bargaining and sent a chilling message of how this government views workers' rights and educators. Instead of listening to teachers who dedicate themselves to supporting students, families, and communities, they're managing increasingly complex classrooms and holding together the very fabric of our educational system, often with elastics, glue, paper clips, and we thank them for their work. This was not a negotiation, it was a forced settlement imposed through constitutional override. This kind of governance erodes trust, suppresses dissent, and weakens the democratic foundations of not just our educational system, but our entire governance. Teachers were not asking for the moon. They were asking for manageable class sizes, supports for students with complex needs, fair compensation. Rather than listening, the government responded with constitutional overreach. This has left many educators and many workers and laborers feeling demoralized and disrespected. If we want to attract and retain the next generation of educators, then we have to do better. We have to recognize teachers as the backbones of our communities. Gigwe emayo epitapatak. What does it mean to lift each other up? It means we invest in one another. It means we protect our children. It means we care for our sick. It means we reject division. And it means that we remember that treaty was a promise of shared survival, not simply just extraction. I support the amendment put forward by the Leader of the Opposition to affirm that Alberta is stronger within Canada and to reject separatism as destructive, and I call on every member in this House to choose unity over chaos, compassion over ideology, and truth over performance. Mama wake up the wawan. We have to help each other. This is the law of the land, far older than this legislature. Hi, thank you, Mr. Speaker.